We are. Excellent. Hi, Michelle. Thank you for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, Ashley.
It's really great to be able to get you on here to chat with us. Hi, everybody. I'm Ashley. Most of you have probably, if you've been following along over the last many months to our lives, I'm Ashley. I'm one of the board members of BPW Greater Moncton, and I have Michele Nadeau, the executive director of the YWCA and Big Brothers Big Sisters of Greater Moncton, here with me this evening for a chat. I'll leave it to you to maybe introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you.
Sure. So education-wise, I have a master's in psychology, but because I'm a woman of many passions, about 3 years ago, I decided to go back to school and I studied holistic nutrition through the Canadian School of Natural Nutrition. So I am a registered holistic nutritionist. And then this opportunity to become to be in this role as executive director came up when our previous director left, and she literally convinced me to try it. So I did in the interim, and I really loved it. So I decided to stay on or throw my name in the hat, and I was the one selected for the position. And it's been a privilege to lead the two organizations since then. So it's been about 2.5 years. Aside from work, like I said, I'm a woman of many passions, so I really love photography. So I'm known to chase birds in my spare time. It's probably my therapy, spending as much time in nature as I can. And also, like I mentioned, the whole holistic health and nutrition, I'm also very passionate about that. More specifically, the relationship to that with the environment and how we can really change our ways of eating to protect or have a better impact on the environment.
That is like right up my alley in terms of personal interest. So I'll have to remember that. That's amazing. And how long have you been like specifically with the YWCA? I kind of get the idea you were in a different position prior to the ED.
Yeah, that's correct. So I've been at the YWCA for more than 10 years now. And just to give you an idea, I still can't believe how much we've grown. About 10 years ago, when I first came on, I think I was staff number 4 at that time, and we're now a team of 34. So the previous executive director, Jewel Mitchell, she was a builder. She really transformed the organization, and we're able to transform it to even a different level at this point. And yeah, it's just amazing. I still pinch myself. I can't believe that we are where we are and able to offer so many different programs now to the community. So yeah.
I knew you had grown a lot, but I didn't realize to what extent. That's phenomenal for such a needed organization in the community that does so much. So these are like big questions, but maybe you can speak a little bit to why your organization is so important in our community for women and young girls, and a little bit about the programs you offer.
Sure. So I believe, well, I know that is very important because we are, aside from, I would say, the women's shelter, so the domestic violence shelters, we are the only organization that is by women and for women. And we really are there to support women and empower them. And that can look very different from woman to woman, but basically align them either with the right services programs that we offer or that are offered in the community. So they have the tools and the skills and the resources needed to transform their lives. So it's really about that transformational empowerment. That's what we're about. And I believe that is unique to the YWCA in our community, but also across the movement. And that's the other thing too. YWCA is part of the Canada-wide movement or organization, and also global. So we have that ability to tap into a whole sisterhood around the globe of resources and different skills and tools. So yeah, that's why we're really unique in our community.
Yeah, and I mean, I think BPW as an organization, there's a lot of potential to find ways of how us as a club can support the work you're doing in the community, and vice versa. Because really, at the end of the day, that's what BPW Moncton, BPW Canada, and even at an international level, it's about empowering women globally to achieve whatever it is that they want to. Discovering their full potential, and providing them some resources and a support network. Like I would say our local club is really a support network for females. And there's so many great organizations out there that we really hope that we can help support you and be that connector. If someone's looking for a resource, be like, have you talked to the YWCA? There's so much that they're doing in our community. I know you run the Employment My Way program.
Right. Yeah, I can run through the programs if you want. So Employment
yeah,
My
just
Way.
even
Yeah, I'll start with that one. So Employment My Way is really a gem of a program. I mean, I think we have a lot of really nice programs. This one has been able to reach so many different women, even across the globe. I mean, in these times that things are much more virtual, we've been able to really expand our reach. And there's women that are signing on to this program that are like either in Morocco or Nicaragua or different parts around the world. So it's amazing. And really, this program is about empowering women or giving the tools and the skills to be able to start their micro business. Some of them have been not micro, even bigger businesses. So again, that lines up very much with your organization. So this is an amazing program. We're going to start our 5th, I believe, cohort really soon in mid-April. So I think it's next week actually that it starts. So very excited about this program. We also have a housing program. So on site in our building at 135 Kendra, we have a 15 unit apartment section to our building. So that specifically is housing for young mothers and their children. So only one child because they're smaller apartments, but we're still able to house a lot of women in our community, 15 women. We also have scattered site units where we provide the support. So at home visits to make sure that they're able to maintain their housing, because a lot of the folks we work with are women that have never really had the opportunity to have their own independent living and really lack a lot of skills, or sometimes just need to be reminded of some skills that they have. So the supports come to that. We also have outreach programs in different communities that are more maybe the more impoverished sections of our community, where we offer different programs and services. Like right now, for example, there's an activity today in the community of Beechwood that with a community partner, Garden Cities, they did a planning or activity to plan where they're going to create gardens this year in their community and create garden boxes. They had a pizza party to celebrate and did a community cleanup. So just amazing things like that that are happening in a lot of different sections in our community. We also got funding for a recent project called Brave YW. And this program is designed to educate youth around the risks of being, I guess, seduced into relationships that become unhealthy, that can consist in human trafficking or sexual exploitation. So really educating around or offering them the protective factors. So school work is going to be done in the schools to really, like I said, reach out to the youth and educate them around this. We have different groups, like for example, YW Write groups, which is women that come together to write on certain themes. Some of them are even published authors now. We have a program called Power On that's about relationships and healthy relationships. And again, it's a support format. We have eating disorder support groups. So anyways, I'm sure I'm forgetting plenty. We have a daycare too, which is a huge, huge aspect for us. So important for us because often we talk at the YWCA about women's economic empowerment, and economic empowerment is not possible for most women without access to childcare. No. So for us to be able to have a daycare in-house, to be able to offer that to so many women in our community, and the after-school program as well. But then it's also, what do you do with the youth? Because they're the future generation. So a lot of our programs tie nicely. Like I mentioned, for example, the gardening, that's an aspect of what we offer at the daycare as well. So the kids, for example, understand where their food comes from and know potentially how to even start a garden at their place, encourage the parents to do that if they're not already doing that. So a lot of neat things that we can tie into the different programs and services that we offer.
Yes, the daycare has grown a lot too. And have you seen a lot of changes in the demand for services since like the beginning of COVID? Like what have the impacts been on your organization amidst the pandemic?
So for sure, we got a lot of calls from women that, they were already most likely unhealthy relationships to begin with, but it certainly highlighted or made that fact even more obvious than ever. And because they were literally trapped with the person that was either abusing them or making them feel really uncomfortable. So there was a call out for help like that. Not that we're a shelter, so we can't do emergency housing, but it definitely had an impact in the influx of housing requests that we've received over the past year. In addition to that, a lot of our programs, we've transitioned quite successfully to a virtual platform. That's fine and dandy for a lot of privileged folks, but not everybody has access to that technology. So we were able to create some program and through different partnerships have the financial support to be able to make sure that women had access not only to the devices, so a lending library was created for computers, but also to have access to internet. So those are the two main things that we've seen. And again, the fact that a lot of moms, it meant school was out, or even once school was open again, some children did not feel comfortable or safe to go back to school. So that also impacted their ability to maybe access certain programs where you had to leave the home because they were with the children. So a lot of impact.
Yes, and research is showing that women have been disproportionately affected by the pandemic in spades.
Yes.
In the economically, in the working sector. I know there was an article in CBC months ago that in some areas of the country, employment rate of women is back to where it was in the 1990s, which is not what we want to hear. I don't know if we're seeing it as much locally, but we're definitely feeling this. Childcare. I mean, I understand that, right? We all were sent home to work, and those of us that have young children were, if we were fortunate enough to work and do our jobs, we were parenting at the same time. And there's an extra mental loads that women are experiencing because of that, extra financial loads.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's something actually the YWCA Canada, again, another advantage to being tied to this organization. There's a lot of research that gets done, and YWCA Canada put together a report about women's economic empowerment post-COVID, and really highlights all the different impacts that, like you said, that are gender specific, that women were disproportionately affected by COVID.
Yes. And it's not to say others were not affected.
No.
Of course, the whole country is feeling, the whole globe is feeling, but women are unfortunately predominantly in sectors, like when I think employment sectors that are predominantly female driven are the ones that have been the most upheavaled because of the pandemic. And I imagine that's causing women to seek more resources in the community, not only from yourself, but from other organizations as well. I know you also mentioned that you have some funding now to start up a new program that'll target education for youth around healthy relationships and recognizing potential dangers or red flags in relationships and human trafficking or sexual exploitation. Can you speak to that a little bit? I know I had Kelly Franklin from Courage for Freedom and our BPW National Committee on Human Trafficking in the country on here it was probably 2 months ago now. Time sort of has flown by, talking about the work being done on more of a national level through BPW and potential partnerships with organizations like yourself across the country. But is this really happening? Is it happening? I kind of know the answer a little bit, but I'm not an expert right here at home.
Yeah. I won't say that we are experts. We're definitely hoping to develop the expertise locally, and we're connected with Kelly Franklin, and because she does have a well-established network of resources. It is happening. That's a sad reality. And I think some of us will notice that there's some, announcement, for lack of better expression, on either social media or in the news, that there are some missing young women or young girls, even like really young, like you're talking 11, 12, 13 sometimes. And you kind of think like it's something that, but it's real, like it happens. And it's something that as a community, we need to address because it's not going away. With the whole digital or virtual age, of course, it brings it to another level where a lot of that is hidden and happens, behind closed doors. And the problem with that is that it never stops. Facebook doesn't stop at a certain hour. It's like all the time. So there's a lot of work that we need to do as a community to protect our youth. And that's just it. It can happen anywhere to anyone. And it's about making sure that the education, the awareness is there.
Yeah, we need to talk to our youth about it and give them the tools to protect themselves. And I know on a personal level, it's a topic that really piqued my attention the first time I met Kelly. And I was like, I had no idea. I really didn't know that was an Atlantic Canadian problem. And ever since then, I've been wanting to find a way to help. Anything anybody can do, and talking about it, I guess, is the first step, is the awareness piece. So I look forward to seeing what your organization does and where we can fit in and helping to support that initiative, because I as a mother of a young girl, I definitely, I mean, she's really young right now. She can't even cross the street by herself, but she will get there, and technology is not going away, right? So
exactly.
Those were tools that we didn't have at our disposal when I was growing up in that way. We had a family computer that I might have used a few times a week. It was very different.
Yeah, and now a lot of youth have some personal device that some are monitored, but even if they're monitored, there's ways to, you know, and a lot of these things, what we are learning, because like I said, we're just now starting to really educate ourselves on this and understand the need in our community. But what we're learning is that a lot of these relationships that turn out to be very unhealthy start off like any other, what you imagine any other normal relationship to be. You know, it's a nice person and, you know, paying a lot of attention to me and promising certain things, and all of a sudden they realize that they're trapped, and it's really hard to get out of those relationships.
Right, it can be scary and threatening, and especially with young girls that don't necessarily have the ability to, like, we're not developed yet to solve those problems, and
Exactly.
in a good situation. So shifting gears a little bit, I guess you're obviously, you run a women's organization in our community. You care deeply about moving women forward. So who inspires you, or when you think of women leaders, who do you think of?
Well, for me, the very top of my list would be my mother. She has always been a really strong model for me. She was a school teacher, so she's retired now. She was known as one of those teachers that was very strict, but extremely caring. So although some kids at the time might not have appreciated that, she put a lot of focus on, nope, you're going to do this. You're going to learn how to do this. I believe in you. But I can't count the amount of times that I've been out in public with my mom and somebody comes up to her and says, oh, you know, Madame Nadeau, you were my absolute favorite teacher. I will never forget you. And thank you so much for believing in me, because you really shifted my path. You know, you believed in me, and at a time that I really, really needed that. And, you know, so it's always been such an honor to really be witness to that. And I see her as such a strong, determined, honest, and loving woman. So she's always been, you know, she is my biggest inspiration. It's such a great strength in my life. And aside from that, I mean, another woman that I really admire, it might sound a little bit strange, but it's really lines up with my values, is Jane Goodall, because I mean, she does so many things for the environment. And I think what I really appreciate about her is that she's not shy to speak her truth. No matter who is willing to sit down with her and listen to her, she will just, you know, educate folks and spread that awareness. And I think that's how we're going to make changes in our society, is about spreading that awareness.
Yes, and speaking out. And
Mm-hmm.
women we're good at that as
Mm-hmm.
female leaders. And as a female leader, would you say, and this again, kind of a big question, but for anybody out there listening, looking for inspiration, what would you say has been one of the bigger career barriers as a female? And maybe you'll have a different take on this when I ask this question to somebody that's in a male dominant industry. I obviously expect the answer to look very different.
Well, for me, I believe that it was my self-confidence. And I think that might be common for a lot of women. So it's just, that was my barrier. And I mean, where that comes from, we don't have time to talk about that, but I think we all have some. I think we can all relate to that. So it was my self-confidence. And again, it's the previous executive director who, I mean, she believed in me. And gave me the opportunity to join a team that was very small at the time, but we were growing, and that excited me. And I was able to develop programs and different services at the YWCA. And that, of course, gave me strength and confidence and really the occasion to develop meaningful connections with different community partners and you know, just get to know the need and just amazing women in our community. And that just really transformed my world, literally. So it's, for me, like I said, it's an absolute privilege to be in this role, and I love it. But self-doubt, I think, was my biggest barrier.
And I think that, like you said, that's really common amongst women. But I also think women are really great at lifting each other up.
Oh, yes.
I'm obviously biased to our own community because I think we do a really phenomenal job of that here in Greater Moncton. But I like to think it's common everywhere about supporting versus competing.
So important, yes.
So important, that community of people around us that push us to be the best that we can be. What would you say, again, like, what's your favorite thing about your job? What do you love most? What's your motivation every day to get up and do the work that you're doing?
Well, what excites me is to be in a field where you get to create lasting impacts and change. I mean, collectively at the YWCA, and again, in partnership with many organizations in their community, we're able to create a better society, to make sure that the ones in need have what they need to meet their goals. And like I said, for women, is to empower them, to transform the lives. So To me, I think my favorite part of my job is the privilege of being able to envision what is next for our organization. And whether it is like planning, for example, an extension to our housing program, because we recognize there's a need out there that we haven't really tapped into. And that specifically, I'm referring to the senior housing, because we're an aging population in Brunswick, and more some seniors are having a hard time to make rent, especially with what's happening in our community with rent going up disproportionately. So whether it's that, or it's creating a social enterprise just to generate more revenue so we can in turn create more programs and services, or if it's like, for example, I talked about the daycare and making sure that there's more garden boxes this year and there's more different projects. So all of that really excites me. Like there's a lot of things about my role that I really love. And it's working with phenomenal groups of women. Like we really have an amazing team at the YWCA. And of course, I'm sure everybody says that about organizations, but I really mean it too.
You
Like,
really,
I
you can tell.
I really feel privileged to work with such amazing women.
I've had the opportunity of interacting with some of your organization, and everybody is equally as passionate and enthusiastic. And I think that says a lot about the work environment and what you're doing in the community. And there's endless possibilities, right? And that in and of itself is excited. What advice would you give women that may want to step into a leadership role, whether it be at their organization or maybe through a volunteer experience, or just like simply step out of their comfort zone to do something?
I would say just go for it, because you have nothing to lose. So again, assuming that self-doubt is something that it's not just me that has it, then it's just take that risk, because you have nothing to lose. And you're absolutely right, Ashley, when you say that, women uplift one another. So to trust the process, to trust that, that support will be there, to be yourself, not to be shy, to be yourself, and to own your truth, share your voice. I would say also to stay humble, because the bottom line is that as we're, leading towards a position of leadership or changing things into a leadership role, we're going to make mistakes. We're going to learn from them. So just to see them as that, is their learning opportunities, because we're all a work in progress. I definitely refer to myself all the time as a work in progress. And I say, like whenever I make a mistake or people make mistakes, just own the mistake, apologize, and learn from it. Just be grateful for the learning opportunity.
And changing the conversation that it's okay to make mistakes. I think for so long we lived in this world where we were expected to be perfect at all times. And that failure was almost like big taboo. And I don't even like the word failure. Like it's okay to not be right all the time. It's okay to make a mistake. It's okay to learn from it. It's okay to ask for help.
Yes.
That makes us better leaders. Long term probably helps us accomplish more and move things forward, because we learn every time we make a mistake. We learn from it. And I think we lose sight of that sometimes, striving for doing it perfect the first time, and remembering we're all human, like that we're real human people with emotions and lives and multiple things going on in our personal lives and in our professional lives. What are some strategies that you can help women achieve more prominent roles in their organizations?
I think strategies, it depends on the organization's structure, I would dare say, because my hope is that those opportunities are built into the organizations, that people do have the opportunity to be challenged and grow and learn, and have also the space to discuss, hey, this is my vision. This is what I would like to achieve. This is my career path. How can I be supported through this? So I think that is something that needs to be in the organization. Yeah, I think it's just about making sure that they have a space to have their voices heard, and that they have access to the support needed, the education, the training, or whatever that is. And mentoring goes a long way. So that I think is an important role, or an important way to do things as well. So somebody that's aspiring to be a leader, or to find a mentor, somebody that is a leader that they resonate with, that they have the same interest. I'm really sounding like I'm crossing over to my other leadership role, Big Sisters, and talking about mentoring. But you know what? It's not just unique to Big Brothers Big Sisters. I think that mentoring is a huge part of it needs to be a huge part of our lives. That's how we learn and we grow. So that I think is another way that somebody aspires to be a leader, if they can find a mentor to really coach them and help them on their path.
Yes, and leadership means so many different things. I think that's always really important to recognize, right? You don't need to
Mhm.
be the head of an organization to be a leader. You can be a leader in your classroom if you're or on your sports team, or on a project, or like there's just so many methods to
Such a great point, Ashley, and that is so true. And the thing is that we all are leaders in
leaders.
different
Yeah.
aspects of our lives. So that's something that is really important to highlight and recognize, because that can be a starting point to another form of leadership as well. But we all are leaders. That's true.
Right. Uh, and obviously, I guess I can't have this conversation without asking a little bit about your other role. And I don't know if it's something that a lot of people know. And in my past life, I was quite involved with Big Brothers Big Sisters myself. Um, so you're also the executive director there, and mentorship is really the foundation of the whole program and what it's built on when we talk about Big Brothers and Little Brothers and Big Sisters and Little Sisters. So I don't know if you could speak to that really briefly, and I know that it's a whole other topic in and of itself that maybe we could do at another time on one of these, but
Yeah, just really quickly, and for me, again, it's a huge privilege to be able to lead that organization as well, along with, the board of directors and my teammates. And again, it's an important service that we bring to the community. The mentorship, like you mentioned, is really important to transform youth lives. And it's a really interesting partnership that we have, the two organizations. So basically, we're under one roof. And the shared leadership model means that it's also, for example, the bookkeeping aspect of it, also like reception aspect of it. Like there's different services that are shared like that. But in addition to that, there's a lot of crossover between the programs. One thing that I forgot to mention on the YWCA side is that we also have a youth team. So youth programs are offered as well. And of course, as you would know, there's the Go Girls and Game On programs for youth that are in schools. On the YWCA side, we also have Strength of Being a Boy and a Power of Being a Girl.
yeah.
So very similar programs. So in terms of being able to share resources is such a perfect match. And it's just great. I mean, I mentioned that we're 34 on the YWCA side, and there's 3 on the Big Brother Big Sister side. So we're 37 under one roof. Not always under one roof in these times. A lot of us are virtually, but with the potential to be all in one, or all on one virtual platform, 37 at once, because we do have the big team meetings that we call. So it's just really nice to have these two organizations that can, offer services to your community together.
And there's definitely overlap probably in some of the families that you serve, some of the youth that you're seeing, like that's pretty evident. That's just really cool. And I think more things like that should be happening locally and like across Canada to strengthen nonprofits in our communities, right? Instead of two people trying to do the same thing, is bringing these groups together and working together to move the goal forward. Because at the end of the day, when you think about those two programs in schools, the goal is the same, right? Empowering young females, empowering young boys, right? That's fantastic. And that partnership started about 2.5 years ago.
That's correct. February 2018.
Oh, that was pretty close. Good, that's good on me. Awesome. I don't know if there's anything else. Like that was a pretty high level overlook about the YWCA, but like, how can people get involved? Like, how does the community, if they want to donate, if they want to get involved? And I'm sure you're looking for volunteers. I know Big Brothers Big Sisters is, and I'm sure the YWCA is, and different programs. If someone today has heard about a topic like, oh, I'd really like to get involved, what should they do?
Well, they can call our main line, so 855-4349. Seems so weird to talk about phones now because it seems to be all virtual, but phones still exist. But you can also follow us, of course, on social media. So on Facebook, we're on Instagram and Twitter. And once in a while, like when we have specific projects, we'll put a call out to the community for either donations or for volunteers. So there might be some of that coming up because we do have a few projects. Like I mentioned, we did a community cleanup this afternoon, but there'll be more to come like that. So we'll put call outs through our social media for things like that.
Excellent. So pay attention to your social media. If you want to pop the link into the live when we're done, feel free. I will take a quick peek to see if anybody's commented. Sometimes we occasionally get questions through the live. We may or might not, but who knows? We'll just take a quick peek. while we're live. No, I think we're just getting some likes and things like that. But if people have questions, definitely put them in there and Michelle can take a look later. I'm sure she'd be happy to answer them. Oh, maybe I'm not looking in the right place. I'm very authentic on lives. People have probably already figured out I'm not the best with Facebook lives when it comes to technology sometimes. No,
that's one thing that came out of COVID, people realizing that you can't beat authenticity because it's forced people to be very much more authentic. I mean, kids popping up, cats meowing, whatever. And people appreciate that because it's raw, it's real, it's not masked or polished. It is what it is.
No, and it's so much more fun, like honestly. And I think in these times right now, we're all sort of craving the comedy, the comic relief, the funny. At least I know I am. And I definitely look forward to other ways that, like, again, I'm so passionate, like human trafficking and anything we can do to help support that. I expect we might have you back in here in the coming months to chat with us. And we'd be happy if there's some more specific deep dives that you think would be valuable for our membership or just for the greater Facebook world out there to come on and chat about.
Absolutely.
That.
And I work with amazing women. I've said that a few times. And I mean, they're experts in their own specialties as well. So you might want to have them as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I wish I had more free time to volunteer because I would definitely I would do it all if I could.
Well, thank you.
I think women, I think that's something a lot of us, we love to give.
That is true.
Excellent. Well, I hope you have a nice evening.
Likewise.
And thanks so much for taking the time to chat with me today.
Thanks for having me, Ashley. Take care.
No problem. You too.
Okay.